Yeah. Welcome to the Spiritual Development Channel. I'm Nasi Yashuva. Today we have an excellent lesson. Something I really wanted to speak about because I see it going on a lot in our community. Overbearing parents and how it affects the child. But before we go into there, I need you to hit the like button. I need you to subscribe. I need you to share. Let's get 1,000 subscribers onto this channel. This channel has good information, and if you want to keep it going, we need to share the information. All right. We're going to start out with an a priori structure. A priori structure. What does that mean? It is relating or denoting knowledge or reasoning that proceeds from a theoretical deduction rather than observation and experience. Sounds like a lot, right? But I'm going to explain to you simply. It is something we know exists in theory, that it governs the world. But it doesn't take empirical data to understand that this exists. And this is your Bible. A priori is an interpretive structure that uses consciousness as a tool. And what do I mean by that? An interpretive structure. Your Bible is something that you interpreted. Everybody has different interpretation of certain stories in the Bible, right? It is based off of their levels of consciousness. But as your levels of consciousness grow and become greater, your interpretation develops into something that's beautiful. So now we're going to take stories out of the scriptures to break down certain psychological events that's happened in our life. And this is part 3 to the early childhood development. All right. Overbearing parenting is something that's common amongst American families, especially amongst African American sisters. And in our lives, it is supposed to be a parent's goal to raise a child that's socially accepted amongst the masses or the community. So a child, from the ages since they were born and to 4, a child has to be socialized. That means that they're integrated into a system where they're accepted. Now, let us get into what we call proprioceptive aspects of a child's development. And you start to see this early into a child's fetal aspect when they're in their fetus. They start to develop this in the second trimester and the third trimester. You heard the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. But let's dig deep into that statement. Dig real deep. It takes a village to raise a child. What does that mean? It takes multiple people to give different understandings to a child in order for them to develop a certain parameter or barriers around them. A child in proprioceptive actions is actually taking stimuli from the environment and developing it inside their brains to know what's good, what to do, and what not to do. When you're overbearing, you don't allow your child to develop these certain aspects of proprioceptiveness. And so, when it takes a village to raise a child, that is a child interacting with different people inside of the village that has different ideologies, different interpretations. And this is why psychologists and psychiatrists understand that rough play with a child in the early developmental stage, especially terrible tools, starts to develop boundaries for the child. If you wrestle with a child, you show them that this hurts, especially a young male child. When they see that this hurts or that hurts, they know that these are boundaries they don't want to cross. So it guards their impulsive, aggressive behavior, and it stimulates awareness. So this is why it's important for a father to be in a young child's life. And these boundaries were even spoken about in the Bible. When you look at the Job story, Satan said to God that you're basically babying Job. He said you have fences around Job. And this is absolutely true. When God took away the fences and allowed Satan adversity to come into Job's life, it started to define him as an individual. It started to give him character. Adversity develops character. As an overbearing parent, sometimes you protect your child so much, you don't allow them to develop character. You don't allow them to see what the world actually is. When you talk about a village raising a child, you have to understand that certain individuals in the community don't tolerate this. Some people don't tolerate that. That gives the child identity. He starts to see that, hey, I can't do this around this person. I can't do that. But when you're overprotective of defending your child, as most parents do nowadays, when they're wrong, it allows your child to understand that he can use their parents as a manipulative tool to take advantage of other people inside of the communities. So now your child is no longer socially accepted. Adversity develops character, which is very imperative. You start to see that in the Jacob story. You see it in the Joseph story. Jacob was pampered by his mother. His mother spoiled him so much, he was a manipulative child. We gotta be real about these scriptures. He was a very manipulative child. And it took for him to be out and pushed out into the world to face adversity for him to develop the character to become Yisrael. Also the same thing with Joseph. Joseph was spoiled. It took for Joseph to go forced inside of the world in order for him to develop his true character. Look at Isaac. Isaac was laughter. Meaning that he basically didn't go through too much. You don't hear much about Isaac. But Isaac wasn't the patriarch that everybody speaks about, because he didn't have enough adversity to develop character. So what you see with Isaac is that he rediscovered his father's wells, if you read in the story. But that just shows that you continue to do the same thing over and over again. And because you didn't have enough adversity in life, you can't create new things. And you didn't develop new character. So now you're in a state of arrested development, right? Non-parenting is actually better than overbearing parenting. At least in non-parenting, children are allowed to develop what it takes to survive. When you're overbearing parenting, you do everything for the child. They don't have the basic survival needs. And overparenting sounds like this in some way. Don't touch my child. My child didn't do that. My child is not wrong. You call the school. The teacher said your child's been being bad. My child said he wasn't bad. This is overbearing parenting. You're allowing your child to see that the people in the world don't mean nothing to him. Only person that he has to answer to is you. And in truth, he doesn't even answer to you because he manipulates you to get what he wants. Now, this happens in the Samson story also. Let's talk about Samson. Samson. In the beginning of the Samson story, Samson used his parents to do whatever he wanted. His parents tell him, hey, don't do this. But he did whatever he wanted and told his parents, this is what I want. And they gave him whatever he wanted. Now, if you look at it, that shows, if you go into the deep core of it, it shows that there is overbearing parenting in it. But where does this overbearing parenting come from? Look at the beginning of the Samson story. You see that the mother sees an angel. And in her bumping into an angel, the angel tells her that she's going to have a child. So she goes back to the husband. She tells him everything that the angel says. The father does not believe it. And in fact, when the angel comes back and the father talks to the angel, he says, the woman. Not my woman, the woman. So it shows a form of disconnect early in the story. And most women, when they have a disconnect with their husbands or a baby father or anything, they tend to raise their child in the fantasy that they want it to be. What they wanted to have with their husband or their ex, they raise the child as if they're their partners and not their child. So now this child is reared up in a sense of protection because a mother protects. That's what a mother do if you look at the lioness. A mother protects from outsiders. So in overbearing parenting, the mother is protected from people that's in the social environment that need to have the ability to correct the child. Mothers, never live out your fantasy through your child. Your son is not your king. He's not your world. He's not your life. These are things that you want to tell the son. Don't give and raise your son to be somebody who's a womanizer. Somebody who takes advantage of all his surroundings. Mothers have to stop that. Fathers, if you are overbearing parent, usually you're trying to connect and reconnect something that never happened in your life with your father. So you protect your child so much because you don't want to have a disconnect with your child. But the truth is, anytime you protect your child from the environments of natural living, they would never understand what society has for them. They never understand what society brings to them. And I'm going to leave you with this parable. There was a lion, a king lion, king of the jungle, who had a cub. The snake was about to bite the lion because the lion entered his territory. The male lion came and said, "Don't bite my son, come to me before you correct my son or chastise my son." The cub lion went into the area of the rhino. And before the rhino can push him away, the male lion said, "Do not scare my son, come to me." And then the lion happened to go in the water and he was about to embark on the hippo, and the male lion came and said, "Do not hurt my son, come to me." Now, what happened is later the cub ends up getting trampled by the hippo, the rhino, and bitten by the snake. And why does that happen? Because he was never taught boundaries. Allow society to give the boundaries to your children, or they will become sociopaths. Sociopath is a disease that affects a child from being social. If your child is not taught social, and he's not socialized by the age of 4, then he's destructive to the community, and 95% of people in jail are sociopaths. Never want your child to not be accepted by community. No matter how much you love him, if you truly love him, you allow him to experience life, and you will correct him and allow others to correct him. Overbearing parenting is the most dangerous thing you can do to a child. Your child is not your husband. It is not your wife. It is your child, and needs to develop certain boundaries in order for them to survive. Thank you.